Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're welcoming back onto the show Doree Donaldson, who's co-founder of Convoy Hope and VP of Convoy Women. Doree, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. Great to be with you.
All right, so we got a lot to cover today. First off, as a return guest, for those that have been watching this series for a long time, you know that Doree is an author in what was our upcoming book and now is our newly launched book. So we've been putting together this book for the last year and a half, also with Dr. Nancy as well, and Women Connect for Good. It's been a lot of fun and a lot of work bringing together all the authors. But I'll tell you, after the finished product, which we're going to get into as well, which is Doree's contribution to the book as well, the Domino Effect, a global call to empower women. So we got a lot to cover. But Doree, just to get us kicked off here, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Doree, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, women, thought leaders, experts, and really to amplify their voices. That's our mission. Doree, what mission matters to you?
Well, it's the mission of Convoy of Hope. When we are a nonprofit, faith-based organization that really is determined to alleviate pain and suffering throughout the world. And we do it in a variety of ways through disaster relief work, through children's feeding, women's empowerment, which is what we're focusing on today, agricultural initiatives, and a variety of other strategies as well. But the goal is to alleviate pain and suffering. And we know there's plenty of it in this world, and to bring hope to people and tangible help.
Amazing. Great to have you back. And, we've been blessed. The show's growing and we have a lot of new listeners, new visitors. So I want to take a step back here before we jump into the book and everything else. And for those that didn't catch the first episode that you and I did together, Doree, let's get into just Convoy of Hope and maybe some of the backstory and how all that began.
Yeah, it really is a story that was birthed out of a tragedy. My husband's parents were hit by a drunk driver when my husband was 12. He was the oldest of 4 children, and his father was killed instantly, and his mother was injured very severely. She was in the hospital for months, and they didn't have insurance, nor did the person who hit them. So they were forced to go on welfare and survive on food stamps and handouts. And it was really the pain of that experience that caused them to experience the kindness of people as well. And so through neighbors and church friends and family members that would bring groceries to their doorstep. And when they saw that the kids had holes in their shoes, they would take them shopping. Some of those practical things that really helped them get through those difficult years. That power of kindness really helped him not become bitter, and also caused him to eventually one day as an adult realize that other people are suffering, and he did have the power to do something about it, really through an encounter as well with Mother Teresa that was quite pivotal in his life. He was on a trip to Calcutta, India to write a book for some people. And while he was there, they said, "We have someone we'd like you to interview for our book." Lo and behold, it was Mother Teresa. And so he had the opportunity to sit down with her, and in the course of the interview, she turned the tables on him, and said, "Young man, what are you doing to help the poor and suffering?" And he says, "Well, I'm really not doing much of anything." And her response to him really made an impact. She said, "Everyone can do something. Just do the next kind thing that God puts in front of you." And so, he went back to his hotel room that night, and he just really began to have some self-reflection about what his life had looked like and what he had been doing with it. And from that point on, he just really began to change some desires of his heart and what he wanted to accomplish in life and his goals and dreams. So we had no idea where it was going to go. And now we're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year at Convoy of Hope. And according to Forbes, we're now the 35th largest charity in America out of 1.8 million. So who knew? We certainly didn't know at the time, but
wow.
Been an amazing journey.
It's an amazing story, an amazing journey, and you wrote about some of this in the book as well, which I was just really pleased with as we kind of went through when I did. Then you don't know this is our first time talking since it's really been published, and I had some things I wanted to tell you. And I so the way that we order the chapters is by alphabetical order. So the second chapter is your chapter in the book. So which of course you know that, but when I was doing the final edit and the final read, it went like I was doing this kind of like on maybe a Saturday morning or something. I thought, it'd be a nice let go through read, because we publish a lot in the business sector and a lot of different like other kind of like technical books as well too. So I didn't quite have my mind ready for what I was going to take in. So I get to your chapter. By the time I'm done with your chapter, like I don't normally like get misty-eyed at our business books. No offense to any of those authors, by the way. but they don't necessarily pull at my heartstrings and make me want to go out there and make a difference in the world, in the sense of like it really hit me. Like by the time I was done with the first chapter was amazing. Then I get to your chapter and it hit me. Like I'm misty-eyed. I'm sitting here. I'm like, all of a sudden it's a Saturday morning and I'm just like, it's heavy, but it's inspiring, and it's so layered, and it's complex, but then it's also the human like journey and the struggle and the story of what it took to make a difference. So first off, I just want to thank you, because you're like, you bringing that type of work to this. If it hits me this way, and this is my business as well as a publisher, then for the readers, I'm just like, I feel that words, that stories really have the power to change things.
It's very kind of you to say. Well, I'm grateful, and I hope that it will make a difference and spur us all on to do more, because we all have the ability to do something. And we just have to look at what's in our hand for the multitude of compassionate people around the world that have linked arms with us. It's really been a movement of kindness. Individuals, churches, businesses, civic groups, government agencies have all come together to make a difference. And it's time, it's treasures, it's a myriad of giftings that people have chosen to make a difference.
And now, as you mentioned, I believe you said 30 years later, I mean, hundreds of millions of people served. I was kind of thinking about, like, even from just as a writer, as an author, like how you were able to, and what your process was to maybe pull some of the stories or the case studies or things that you shared, like, because it's a lifetime of work. Like that couldn't have been easy.
Yeah. Well, I think when something hits you personally and it becomes your own experience, that's what you want to share, right? It has to touch your own heart. And so the stories that I shared in the chapter are women I've met that really changed me. In fact, I probably was more changed than maybe they've been changed by interacting with them. Honestly, sometimes we feel like we're the ones going in and we're going to make a difference. We're going to, save people. But honestly, the transformation that happens in us is as big or bigger because we find out who we are, and that we're really lucky to just get to be a part of it. And that's how we feel. We feel just really lucky that we get to be a part of it. And we don't certainly take any of the credit for this, because I think, we're people of faith. God wants to help people more than we do. And that's been proven true through all of this. There are people who we don't even know that have said, I want to be part of that. And so that's really what's made Convoy of Hope what it is today. Amazing partners, volunteers, nearly 1 million volunteers through the years have been a part of it. So we couldn't do what we do without them.
I want to go a little bit into some of the stories that you shared as well, to give the audience a little bit of a flavor for like what to expect when they pick up a copy. So let's maybe start with Merida, if I'm saying that correctly.
Merida.
Okay. Let's start with Merida's story.
Yeah. She's a mom in Ethiopia, has 3 children, and she was forced to live on the streets because her husband abandoned her, and having no skills of her own due to lack of education, which many times women just don't have the opportunities that men have, that boys have. Girls are not sent to
Mhm.
school sometimes if a parent has to choose who to send to school.
Mm.
And due to early marriage, lots of reasons, right? Where
Yeah.
women just are at a disadvantage. And Marita found herself in that situation. And so she lived on the streets, but to protect her daughters, this is the
Mm.
part. This is the part that I can hardly say without crying. She would strap them to her legs
Yeah.
so they wouldn't be taken during the night. If you can imagine, I can't even imagine that
Mm-mm.
kind of anguish that she experienced as a mother. And then when she came into our program and she got the ability to produce income,
Hmm.
made all the difference. And now she can send her children to school. And she's making injera, which is a popular kind of a sourdough kind of tortilla bread
Yeah.
that they make in Ethiopia, if you've ever had that.
Oh, I
And
have.
that's
It's
what she makes.
delicious. They have a little
Yes.
Ethiopian town in Los Angeles, and I love it. It's so good.
Oh,
It's spongy.
yeah.
It's tasty. Mm.
Yeah, kind of spongy. Yeah, yeah. So, her life's never been the same. And I was able to visit her in her home, and
Mm.
it's just a tiny little home, but she was so proud to have us visit.
Wow.
And she went over the minute we walked in. First thing she did was she went over to her little china cupboard, believe it or not. It was beautiful. She had a key in her pocket. She pulled it out, opened the door, cupboard door, and pulled out her business record keeping book. And she wanted to show us how all the money that she's making and how she's keeping careful track of it all, and
Wow.
her earnings and her expenses, and how she's learning all these business skills, which is what the women are taught, is as part of their training, is that
Mhm.
leads them into their vocational training. And the women are taught about their personal worth as well. So we
Mhm.
really address every part of a woman's life, from her personal life to her financial skills, and then
Mhm.
on to the vocational training, so that it's really a holistic approach to helping someone become healthy on every front
Yeah.
in their life.
And this really, like, when you talk about these business skills and things like, yeah, and that they're being taught, I mean, this is breaking like generational cycles, right? Like this is like for her
Absolutely.
children, for like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I feel, and that the chapter title is the domino effect. And
Mhm.
really the domino is, you start with one woman
Yeah.
and it changes everything in her family, because her children now see an empowered mother. So her
Mhm.
sons are going to look at her differently. They're going to look at women differently. She has the ability to send them to school, doesn't have to choose who to send. She can
Yes.
send both her boys and her girls to school for the first time, perhaps, in her life. I've met many moms who said, "Oh, and now we can have chicken. We can have chicken on the
Yeah.
weekends, and we couldn't even have meat before. And now
Mm.
they can have healthier food so they can be healthier. And when kids go to school, they have a future."
Mhm.
And so that next generation is changed, and the cycle of poverty is broken. So eradicating hunger can start first with mom. You empower
Mm.
mom, because moms want what's best for their kids, and they'll
Mm.
do anything to ensure that they survive, but that they also thrive.
Yes. I want to let's also talk about another story that you talk about in there. So, Magreth, am I saying that accurate? Mhm.
Close enough.
So, tell us a little bit more about the story that you share with Magreth. Can you
Yeah,
pronounce it right for me?
she
I don't want to mess up her name.
Magrath. I think Magrath
Magreth,
is
Magreth.
pretty
There we
close.
go. Yep. That's
She's
all
from
on me. That's not on the Magreth. Yes.
That's okay. It's a lot like Margaret, but not quite.
Hmm.
She's from Tanzania, and I
Hmm.
met her just a little over a year ago, and she has been a widow for over 20 years,
Hmm.
7 children, and she is a very talented Maasai jewelry maker.
Hmm.
And so we came to her home and we watched her and 2 of her daughters. They were actually making jewelry.
Yeah.
We got to see how they made it. It was absolutely fascinating. But she is in demand, so she provides jewelry for several vendors. She also
Hmm.
has a farm, but she's built homes for both of her sons. And
Hmm.
now her daughters, who we got to speak to her daughters, and they told us that they are so happy because now they have the business that they're doing with their mom, but pretty soon she won't have to do it anymore because they'll be able to take care of her. So,
Wow.
right? So that generational training has been passed on to her children, and of course her grandchildren. So the whole family has become healthy as a result. So
Mhm.
I just think that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It's amazing, and I mean the amount of and these stories. I know you have them for days and days because you've helped so many people, and Convoy of Hope's helped so many people through the years. I understand there was even a study that the University of London did on a Convoy of Hope's women's empowerment program. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Well, there's a few intellectual terms that I don't quite all can't repeat to you,
Yes.
but amazing what they found. They found that as they studied in 3 different countries,
Mhm.
women who had gone through our program, and many of them have gone through a lot of abuse. So
Mm.
there's a lot of psychological scars and unhealthiness there. And
Mhm.
they found that as the women move through the program, that the program kind of has an inoculating effect
Mm.
on them, because by the end of it, when compared to women of higher socioeconomic
Mhm.
level, of less trauma in their lives,
Yes.
that the women in our program were happier, were just as well off, if not more well off, than
Mhm.
those women, because of what they've learned, how they've grown, and what they've experienced. So it was just living proof to us that it's working,
Mhm.
and it's being successful, and it's really accomplishing what we had hoped,
Mhm.
far more than we had hoped, actually.
Mhm.
From the time we started in Ethiopia back in 2010 with a grant from USAID, we had no idea truly how successful it was going to be and how important it was going to be. And
Mm.
now it's really become one of our strategic initiatives that's a
Mhm.
part of children's feeding and agricultural training, really helping entire communities to become sustainable. And that's the
Mm.
goal, is to come into a community, feed the children,
Mhm.
empower the mothers, train the farmers so that they can feed their families, their communities, and then we can move on to the next community and help them
Mm.
become healthy. But they don't need us forever. We always want to go in with an exit strategy, because we don't want to be feeding their grandchildren.
Yes.
We want to help them have tools so that they can feed their own eventually. And
Mm.
that's really Convoy's goal, is to go in and do asset-based community development, to say, what do they have? What's in their hands? What do they have
Mm.
that we could take and we could help them capitalize on, and not, so we're just not giving handouts all the time, right?
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
helping them grow and use what they have. And I just think that's a really beautiful part of the whole process.
And now with so much, I guess, obviously a lot of progress has been made, but then you look at something like also, COVID-19 happening and, hundreds of millions of people worldwide being, thrust back into like extreme
Mhm.
poverty.
Yes.
Can you maybe talk about, like, for the audience that we don't necessarily get this information every day, like what's happening, like what's taking place?
Well, I mean, I think we were on a trajectory of hopefully ending poverty
Yeah.
eventually, but COVID-19 absolutely sent more than 130 million people back into poverty. And
Mm.
extreme poverty is considered making less than $1.90 a day.
Mm.
So when you think about that,
Yeah.
that's huge. It doesn't take much for a tipping point for a family to be desperately in need, and
Yeah.
that's really what we're striving to work with, is people who are the lowest of the low, and
Mhm.
even America's working poor. We know that the situation in America is desperate as well, and so
Mhm.
Convoy works here in the U.S. as well through disaster responses, as well as helping America's working poor through different strategies.
Mm.
So we know that is tremendous. The need is always going to be there. It just got a little bit bigger, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we're going to throw up our hands and say, "Well, it's too big. We can't
Mhm.
do anything," because that's not what we're supposed to do. We have to keep striving forward to make a difference, because it matters to every
Mhm.
single person that we're able to touch, and just give that hand up. It's
Yeah.
really a hand up, not a handout. It's a hand up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see this, and I see that more work needs to be done, not just from Convoy of Hope. I mean, just in general, like all
Yes,
of us getting involved, and all of us being like awareness, even just awareness about
yes,
what's going on, because we
absolutely.
live in our own little echo chambers or bubbles or things like this, and like
Yeah,
that's why I'm excited to have someone like
yeah,
yourself on the show to let people know what's going on and why this
yeah,
matters.
yeah. I had a fascinating interview with Dr. Henry Cloud, or heard it, I should say,
Mm,
with Malala, and he
mm,
asked her, he said, "Why should we care about
mm,
what's going on around the world? Why should it matter to us?" And her answer was so incredibly powerful. She said, "We all must see the world as our home and
mm,
everyone in it as our brothers and our sisters." Oh,
mm.
that says it right there. We all need to care, because it does matter. It does
Mhm.
matter. And if we aren't helping feed children, helping empower mothers, then the terrorists probably will be. They're going to
Mhm.
get that bowl of rice from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I would rather it be from me than somebody else.
Mm.
So, yeah, the need is tremendous. It truly is. But we all can make a difference. And wherever you are in your own backyard, there's
Yeah.
always needs, right? Just open your eyes and see what they are and jump in.
So speaking of getting involved, Dory, how do people get involved with Convoy of Hope, Convoy Women? Like, how do people participate in this?
Well, you can always go to our website, convoyofhope.org, pretty easy to find.
Mhm.
If you want to know more about women's empowerment, you can learn some there. You could also go to the Convoy Women website, and that's
Mhm.
convoyofhope.org/women. Advocacy is huge. You can
Mhm.
follow us on social media at Convoy Women, at Convoy of Hope, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we're all there.
Yeah.
Those are great ways to share the stories. Use your voice to be the voice for those who don't have one.
Mm.
Of course, gifts, financial gifts are huge because we can't do what we do without financial gifts, but we're
Mhm.
able to leverage your gift through all the partners that we have and the gifts and kinds that are provided to Convoy of Hope. We are able to leverage those gifts 4 and 5 and 6 times, sometimes even
Mm.
more than that, through amazing partners like Hormel and Home Depot and Target and Walmart. All of those amazing partners of ours that really help us do what we do as well.
Mm. Amazing. Well, Dory, thank you so much for coming back on the show, and I'm thrilled to continue to spread the word and the message of Convoy of Hope, and then also to get this book out so that more people can hear the stories and it can make a difference as well. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't hit the subscribe or follow button yet, we welcome you to do that. This is a daily show. Every day we're putting out new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you get involved as well, in whatever your mission is, and accomplish that. And Dory, again, so much fun. Thank you so much for coming back on. Really
Thank you,
appreciate you
Adam.
making some time for us.
I enjoyed it so much. Thanks again.